Good morning, almost afternoon to everyone. If you have any technical issues as we go through this, please drop your notes, feedbacks, requests for help in the chat. Hi, Carla. Good morning. Thank you so much for being on. We are thrilled to welcome you today. Just to start, so you know who else is in the room on behalf of Prebis Leadership Awards, we have Melissa Granville, who has worked with us at Prebis over the last three going into the fourth cycle on these awards. She is with Capital Impact. Also on her team is Stacy Williams and Catherine Hazelton. We're lucky to have their expertise on this. We also have our Senior Learning Officer, Dr. Novian Yarber, who many of you have probably met. He's really working with us to understand the learning around, what's beneficial for nominees and community in general, what that impact may look like. Additionally, you may know him, but we have Edgar Ontiveros Medina, who is our lead strategist and leads our multimedia design. Edgar really works on the social and monitoring the feedback and really making sure we're telling stories in a coherent way. I'm Crystal Page. I'm the Vice President of Communications for the Prebis Foundation. We want to welcome you to this 2027 Prebis Leadership Awards informational webinar for nominators. So I just want to thank you all for joining us. Like I said, good morning. If you have questions or just want to say hi along the way, feel free to drop that in the chat. Just to remind you, Prebis Foundation has been around for about 6 years. We know that we are here because of the late, great Conrad Prebis. And what we want to do today is really dive in with you. So whether you're here to nominate someone or just learning more, we appreciate you giving us some of your time to engage. So let's take a quick look at the agenda here. So let's see. We're going to cover briefly who the Prebis Foundation is. We've evolved over the years, so we always want to make sure you're up to date on that. The purpose of the Leadership Awards, as we grow, we've gotten more specific and precise based on feedback from nominators and awardees and nominees. We'll take an in-depth look at the nominations timeline, eligibility, and selection criteria. Then we'll do a walkthrough of the online nomination form, and we find that this really helps people understand what the selection committee is looking for, but also how to best represent your awardee. So we'll get there. Then we have some tips and guidance for submitting a competitive nomination. And finally, we'll close with a Q&A for any remaining questions you have. As a reminder, this session will be recorded. Let's go to some housekeeping, and then we'll dive right in. So a few quick notes. All attendees will remain muted through the session, and that's just to make sure that everyone on has a chance to hear all the information available. But we will have that Q&A feature. So if you have questions, please use that Q&A feature. We will address them live at the end. The closed caption button should also be working. So just click the CC button in your Zoom window. If that does not work for any reason, let us know. Again, if you run into any technical issues, feel free to use the chat or someone from our team will help you. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the foundation. Many of you have probably engaged with Prebis Foundation, whether you're a grantee or a partner, whether you're an early advisor of the foundation when we were doing listening sessions, or maybe you know someone on the team. Regardless, we are a part of your community, and we hope you feel like you're a part of ours because we love working with you all. So for those who may be new, currently the Prebis Foundation is the largest private grant maker in San Diego County. It was founded by the late, great Conrad Prebis. Many of you may be familiar with his work, or you may have seen his name on the side of the Cardiovascular Center, San Diego State. Conrad left more than $1 billion in assets behind. After looking at his intent, his vision for San Diego County, our mission is really to help build an inclusive, equitable, and dynamic future for all San Diegans. We focus on 4 primary areas. That's health and well-being, medical research, youth success, and arts and culture. And that's really what this leadership award will focus on. You may be familiar with the fact that we've moved into the space of being an institution that is engaging with community at those intersections, but also in terms of leadership. So things like civic revitalization, things including the Tijuana River. We find that those things overlap and contribute to health and well-being. Let's talk a little bit about the Leadership Awards. Just making sure in the chat we're good. Good morning, Elena. Thanks for joining us. Okay, so the leadership awards. So first, I'm going to deploy our two-question survey, if I can do this right, and hopefully I will. But we would like to know how many of you have either done, let's see if I can merge into meeting window. Sorry, give me 1 second. That's what happens when you test things. Attendees can upvote, attendees can comment. All right, did that pop up for you all? Someone, can you respond in the chat? Let me know if that popped up. No, thank you, Jennifer. Not yet. Okay, I may have tested it before and that may have taken it down. So I'm going to do this instead so we don't spend a lot of time on this. If you've nominated before, will you let us know in the chat? That's question one. Question two, what part of the county do you identify with? So do you reside, and it can be work, reside. Some people I know you may live in like Oceanside, you may work in downtown San Diego, you may live in East County and work in East County. But just let us know, have you nominated before? And what part of the county you currently connect with? Thank you, Jennifer. North County, Carlsbad, very good. Anyone else? It's not required. It just helps us understand who we're reaching and if we've attracted new people as this opportunity grows. Awesome. No, never nominated. Great. Thank you all. Thank you. Excellent. I'm going to let that keep going, but we save all of these notes just to better understand. Thank you all for joining. All right, as those roll in, never. Welcome from SDSU. Not nominated anyone before, centrally in Hillcrest. Good. So we have people all over the county from East County. Thank you, Christine. Thank you all. This is really great for us to understand. Feel free to keep adding to that chat. Let me tell you a little bit about the Leadership Awards, and then I'm going to hand it over to Melissa. So the Premise Leadership Awards are at the core of the Foundation's mission. Each year, we honor 5 inspiring leaders who are driving real change that's meaningful across our focus areas. The awards recipient will receive $100,000 in flexible funding and public recognition to elevate their work and expand their impact. One thing we've learned in the last 3 years that I think is really important for folks to understand, awardees are able to direct these awards as they see fit. So some of them may need rest and reprieve. Some of them may want part of it to go to their organization, but we want them to do what's going to allow them to continue to be leaders that are well in community, that are resilient, that can sustain. So we want to be really clear. This is different than the grants. This is an award in a different way. A key goal of this program is to identify and support leaders and communities that the foundation sometimes doesn't know, or we may know, but they may not have gotten a lot of attention or acknowledgement, or they may be relevant to what's happening in this moment in time. This awards program is designed to help us expand our reach, deepen our understanding of community leadership across San Diego, and elevate the voices and perspectives that haven't been connected to the foundation yet. So sometimes there may be someone who's been in our Prebisphere that we're aware of, but we may not have had a chance to connect to them. So to give you an example, I don't even know if he's on this. Andy Carey works with the Border Philanthropy Project, and Andy has helped us better understand philanthropy in Tijuana as it's tied to San Diego. We've had Dr. Isabel Newton, who was at Waves, connect and really teach us about non-invasive surgical procedures. So we've learned all kinds of different things from these leaders, but also just their insight into the moment has been very helpful to us. So even if you have someone who's not brand new to us, please consider nominating. But I will say we are especially encouraging nominations that help us learn about new leaders, new networks, new communities doing powerful work. With that, we're going to dive into the details. No one spends more time on those details than Capital Impact, so I'm going to hand it over to Melissa and Capital Impact, our long-standing partner. Take it away, Melissa.
Thank you. Thanks, Crystal, and great introduction today. And I am noticing a lot of folks are new to the program, so that's really exciting, and we're glad you're here and look forward to hopefully giving you some insight into what the selection committee is looking for in the nominations and how you can submit something that's competitive and aligned with what they're hoping to see. So thanks again for being here, and we hope you feel more confident, informed, and supported as you prepare your nomination as a result of today. All right, so let's jump into some of the nuts and bolts of the program. So we'll go into some key dates and deadlines for the awards nominations process. So nominations are officially open, huzzah. And we ask that you submit your nomination by July 23rd of this year. So there's plenty of time to submit a nomination between now and then. And over the summer, our team will review all of the nominations that are submitted for eligibility and competitiveness. And ultimately, we're looking for alignment with the selection criteria, which I'll walk through here in a minute. In October, an independent selection committee made up of community members and foundation staff and board members will meet to determine the finalists for the award. So that's about 10 to 15 leaders. From there, we'll conduct additional research. This includes reviewing publicly available information and may involve phone calls to the references provided by you and the nominators of these leaders. Importantly, I want to call out that finalists will not be notified that they are under consideration, and the list of the finalists or any nominee will not be made public at any point in the process. In late November, the selection committee will meet again and select the 5 award recipients of the 2027 Prebis Leadership Awards. And then in February, all nominators will be notified. Well, the award recipients will be announced, and all nominators will be notified regardless of decision at that point as well. All right, next slide. Okay, so let's talk about who is eligible for this award. So these awards are really designed to recognize individual leaders, so not organizations or groups or pairs of leaders. It's really one individual person who is driving change in San Diego. And to qualify, nominees must be alive. They must be leading work in San Diego County and share Prebis Foundation's commitment to creating an inclusive, equitable, and dynamic future for all San Diegans. I want to note that they can come from any sector, so whether that's nonprofit, public, or private, and they can work on any range of roles within their organization and come from any background. What's most important is that their work aligns with one or more of the 4 focus areas of the foundation. So if you can go back, Stacey, health and well-being, medical research, youth success, or arts and culture. I think one of the things that we are that we want to share too is that the most competitive nominees tend to be leaders who have real influence over their approaches that they're driving. In some cases, that may mean that they are in senior level roles, but that doesn't necessarily mean that others might not have or might not be eligible. So that could be an executive director, it could be a program director, or a different title. So don't let that kind of keep you from nominating someone. As long as they have some kind of ownership of the work that they're driving in the community, they are eligible. We're also looking for leaders who have a proven track record of impact in their current role and who plan to remain active in their work for the foreseeable future. So really that they're, either in their current role or in the field serving San Diego County for at least the next 3 years. All right, so before you begin your nomination, we recommend reviewing the full eligibility and selection criteria to make sure your nominee is a strong fit. It does take some time to complete the form, so we don't want you to kind of move forward without fully kind of making sure that they're eligible. All right, next slide. Great, let's talk briefly about what the foundation is looking for in a nominee. So we use 6 criteria to assess nominees, looking at both their leadership and the impact of the work that they're doing in the community. So these criteria are vision. So the leader has a clear vision and actively advances it to improve the well-being of San Diegans. Courage, the leader demonstrates boldness and a commitment to overcoming obstacles. Inspiration, the leader inspires others and creates pathways to take action. belonging. The leader helps people feel like they belong and can shape their own futures, that they've had an impact. The leader and their work have improved the well being of San Diegans, and timing. The leader's work is highly relevant and will be in the years to come. So each criterion is addressed through a narrative question in the nomination form. And I'll talk a little bit about the criteria in more detail on later on when we walk through how to submit a competitive nomination and what to include potentially in your responses to each of these sections. Next slide. All right. So if you're wondering what this looks like in real life, look no further than our past awardees. So these are our three cohorts of leaders who have been recognized by the Prebis Leadership Awards in past. These folks represent diverse fields and lived experiences, but all share a deep commitment to San Diego and driving lasting change in the community. So some are, creating, Crystal mentioned this before, but some are creating innovative health access programs, while others are driving systemic change in education or arts or immigration. So their work is not just visionary; it's grounded in action, inclusive in spirit, and capable of inspiring broader transformation throughout the community. So we encourage you to check out each of these leaders' stories on the website. They're great examples of how the criteria shows up in powerful ways. All right, next slide. All right, so this year we are using a tool called Submittable to collect and review nominations. To submit a nomination, nominators will need to create a submittable account, which only requires an email and a password. The process is pretty straightforward and user-friendly, and creating an account only takes a few minutes. Once in the system, you can save your work and return to it at any time. And you may also invite collaborators to help draft and review portions of the nomination before you submit it. So the form itself will ask you for a couple of key details. So one is your contact information and basic details about yourself. It will also ask you some basic details about the nominee, their name, their organization, if they're tied to one, etc. And then the heart of the nomination is really, the nominations form is really 6 short answer sections that correspond with the selection criteria. So each section tied to a selection criterion has a series of questions to help you address that criterion. And you'll have about 20 or 200, up to 200 words to address that question. You'll also be asked to list 2 references who can speak to the nominee's impact from different perspectives. After submitting a nomination, you will receive a confirmation for your records. At any time, you're welcome to contact us through Submittable as well. We also will provide you an email address that if you have any challenges with the tool or with the questions themselves, you can reach out to us and we're happy to kind of help you out. All right, next slide. All right, what you all came here for, tips for submitting a competitive nomination. So I'll just say that if you were to take away one thing from this session, let it be this, align your questions with the 6 selection criteria. So we walk through those criteria. I'm going to walk through them again and give you some tips on maybe what you might want to consider including in each section. So each question that is in the form is designed to help the selection committee understand different aspects of the leader's or the nominee's leadership and impact. Strong nominations provide specific examples, clear evidence, and a compelling story about the leader and why their work matters to San Diego. So let's get into a couple of tips. So let's start with vision. So this question is about the leader's vision for improving well-being, the well-being of San Diegans and the actions they are taking to make that vision a reality. So in this section, you might consider including the challenge or opportunity that the leader is addressing and why it matters to San Diego. You might want to include the future they are working to create. What is their vision? What's their outcome objective? And then what are the specific strategies, programs, partnerships, and or policies they're advancing to bring that vision to life? So why do they do the work that they do, and what are they doing to achieve that vision? All right. In for courage, this criterion focuses on the leader's willingness to take risks, overcome obstacles, and persist in pursuit of meaningful change. So in this section, you might consider including a specific example of a challenge, barrier, or setback the leader has faced, a time when they really challenged the status quo or pursued an unconventional path. In the section, you might want to include specific actions that they took to overcome that challenge, barrier, or setback, and what happened as a result of that effort. And perhaps what this example reveals about their character or commitment to their vision or the work that they're doing. All right, next slide. All right, so the next criterion is inspiration. So this question explores how the leader motivates others to engage in and support their vision. So in this section, you might want to include how the leader brings people together around a shared purpose, ways in which they build trust, partnerships, and collaboration, perhaps even with folks that maybe don't hold the same views as themselves, or come from different backgrounds. Examples of how they encourage others to take action, and how they mentor, develop, or elevate emerging leaders. Not all of these things must be present. You could choose one or more of those things to address in this section, but those are just some examples of things that you could include here to demonstrate how the leader is inspiring others. All right. The next criterion is belonging. So this criterion examines how the leader creates opportunities for people to feel welcome, valued, heard, and empowered. In this section, you might consider how the leader fosters environments where people feel that they belong, ways community members help shape decisions and solutions that the leader is advancing, and how they ensure people most affected by the issue that they're working on or the challenge have a voice in addressing that challenge themselves. All right, next slide. All right. The next criterion is impact. So this question focuses on results and the difference the leader and their work is making in the lives of San Diegans. So in this section, you might consider describing the populations, communities, or systems that have benefited from their work. You might include evidence of meaningful change resulting from their leadership. So this could be quantitative or qualitative ways of describing their impact. So it could be data, stories, quotes, or testimonials. Any combination of those things can help us better understand the impact that they're making in the community. And to the extent that you're able, the scale, depth, or significance of the outcomes that they've achieved in the community as well. All right, and the last criterion is timing. So this criterion looks at why this leader's work matters right now and why it likely is to remain important in the near future. So in this section, you might describe why the leader's work is especially relevant to the needs and opportunities facing San Diego today, and why their vision, leadership, and impact are likely to remain important for the years to come. So this could include emerging opportunities, challenges, or trends that make this a pivotal moment for their work. And if you feel comfortable, how recognition might accelerate their work, their future impact. All right, next slide. So I'm going to give you a few general tips too, outside of the criterion themselves, to help you put your best foot forward on this nomination. So one tip is to be as specific as possible. So the strongest nominations that we've seen are specific and story driven, instead of kind of general praise, Catherine Hazelton is great. It would be helpful to understand how she's great. So Catherine Hazelton is great. because of these reasons, and then provide some specific examples of how she shows greatness. So concrete examples and data, et cetera, would be helpful. The other tip I have is to balance your answers. So talk about the leader's personal qualities and how they align with the criteria, their leadership, how they show up in the community, but also the work that they're doing. So talk a little bit about, and it could be one model, it could be multiple things that they're doing that demonstrates how they align with the criteria. But try to balance between the person themselves and the work that they're doing in the community. Um, the third tip I have is to use the full word counts. So in each section, you have 200 words to address that particular criterion. Use the space wisely and to tell a clear and focused story about how they align with that criterion. All right. The other tip I have is to start early. This can take a little bit of time to put together. Some nominators have told us in the past that they like to write it in a Word document beforehand and then put it into the tool. In this case, you can create an account and work on your work in Submittable and revisit it. You can save it and return to it later if you wanted to. It just depends on how you would like to how to work. You can also just do it all in one go. It's up to you. But encouraging you to start early and submit early so that you're not stressing when the deadline comes July 23rd. We also encourage you to review the FAQ section on the Prebis website. We have received a lot of questions over the last couple of years and have done our best to address them on that section. Why nominate, for example? Who should nominate? What are the benefits of the award? All of those things are addressed in the FAQ section and can help you really think through how to draft your nomination. All right. I'll also give permission that if you can go back one slide, permission to reach out to the nominee or their colleagues if you are so inclined to get additional information. This is not a requirement, and if you wanted to keep this a secret, that's totally fine too. But you are more than welcome to reach out to them to get some additional details or get their perspective around how they might benefit from this award, for example. And then lastly, contact us. Let us know if you have any questions along the path. I'm glad you're here because hopefully this will help address some of your initial questions. But as you start developing your nomination in earnest, please feel free to reach out to us through the Submittable platform or through email. We can go to the next slide. Stacy? Thank you. So now we want to open it up to you. I imagine you have a lot of questions for us, and so I'll kick it back over to Crystal, who will facilitate the Q&A. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you, Melissa. And thanks to everyone who has dropped in a question or shared if they've done this before. We did respond already to 2 questions in the Q&A. So I just want to recap those real quick. Will the session recording or transcript be shared? Yes. After this, we will trim off the front and the end of the video just to make sure it's clean and easy for you to watch. We will send it out to all of you who registered. It will also be on the FAQ page and in this week's Prebis newsletter. So lots of availability. Share it with anyone who you think would be a great nominator. And then Joel had asked, are there any criteria for who the references can be or can't be? For example, could a board member or a leader of an org? Stacy responded, the reference can be anyone you feel can speak to the leader's work and how it aligns with the selection criteria. It's a good idea to let the reference know that you have put them on the form. And there's additional info in the FAQ, which Dr. Novi has dropped into the chat. So let's go to any new questions coming in. Let's start with Catherine. Catherine asks, can the references in one nomination also submit their own nominations for the same candidate? Let's go. Melissa, do you want to take a knock at that one?
Sure. Yeah. So I'll say that on the references, it is helpful to, so we, if they become a finalist, we will call both of those references, and it is helpful for the nominee to have two different perspectives provided as references. So I would consider, as you're putting in references, someone who could speak to different aspects of the work that they're doing in the community, whether that's personal or professional. It's up to you, but uh, just considering that would strengthen their kind of nomination if they were offering two different perspectives outside of the nominator. And then to answer your question about multiple nominations, we do encourage just one nomination per leader. However, we do receive multiple nominations. That does not necessarily strengthen their candidacy for receiving a nomination, but more than one person can submit a nomination for a single individual. Um, the key is that they need to come. So it would just mean that someone else would be creating an account and submitting a nomination separate from your nomination. The other piece is that you can also submit multiple nominations. So if you are, let's say I sign in with my email, I could submit nominations for multiple people for this award as well. So two options.
Thank you,
Hopefully,
Melissa.
hopefully I did that. Okay.
And to build off of that, Melissa, just because I see a few more things coming in on that, if someone does a nomination with another nominator, um, in terms of coordination, are there any specifics that they should know about that?
In how to coordinate with the leader?
Well, with the question was, sorry, so many things coming in at the same time. If they are doing a nomination with another nominator, how does that work? I think in practice on
Mm.
the form.
Yeah, so you can invite them as a collaborator in the form. There's a way to invite them and add their email address, and that will send them a notification to join them. And then you can co draft in the form.
Excellent. All right, let's go to the next question on here. Um, Let's see. It looks like a couple folks asked. I noticed last year all winners were CEOs. While you have addressed it is not necessary, does including CEO make for a stronger nomination? Could you give an example of a non-CEO winner? We absolutely can. And then it looks like Molly was responding to Krista, and she said, last year I believe most honorees were leaders of organizations. I'm curious if grassroots leaders are also aligned with this opportunity, or if there's a preference for leaders in formal positions. I'm going to try to address this first, and then Melissa or Novi, if you want to jump in, please do. So we have had folks such as Dr. Isabel Newton, who in their main role was at the time working for Veteran Affairs. She does have a nonprofit, but there are absolutely folks who don't have the CEO title. So if you see someone leading, whether it's in a formal or an informal way, and contributing, please consider nominating them. I don't think we're driven just by title. I think we're much more driven by those 6 criteria, which you saw in this deck and you'll see on the FAQ. What's the impact they're having? Are they painting that vision? All the things that were listed. Melissa, I know you're one of the first sets of eyes who sees the nomination. So anything else you'd add there? Dr. Novi, you always kind of remind us the why behind our work. So anything else you'd want to add there?
I think you said it, but I think just to reiterate is that this is leadership award. It's not a leadership position award, right? So leadership is about the action and it's not about role. We don't.
And I thank you, Novi, and thank you, Melissa. And I will say, when we send out the email, I'll pull the 24, 25, 26 links so you all can see those bios, the videos for this last cohort. It gets a little bit more creative as we build out and learn. So I think the stories get stronger every time. But that the nominations have been beautiful all 3 times through. So you can, learn about folks. Read about them, and hopefully you see yourself and your leader in one of them. If not, we look forward to whoever you're going to nominate. Let's see. Anonymous attendee asks, does the panel look at the qualifications and connection of the nominator to the nominee? Does the nominator's work and profile add strength to a nomination? I'm going to ask Melissa if you want to jump in on that one.
The nominator doesn't necessarily or like who the nominator is doesn't necessarily matter. I think as long as they are aware and comfortable with describing the work that they do, that is helpful to us. So, you don't need to be a senator to get to, as a nominator to have the nominee be competitive. You could be a person who's a client, a recipient of the work that the leader is advancing, or you could be, on the board or have a personal relationship with them. I think the key is that you're just comfortable with the work and can describe it as in detail as possible in their alignment with the selection criteria.
Thank you, Melissa. Um, in addition to that, I see someone asked about the links for the 24-25 awardees. Was there one for 2023? So as we were learning, the timelines evolved. So there were nominations in 23, but the first awards actually went out in 2024. So we'll send you links for 2024, 2025, and 2026. My apologies if I misspoke on that prior to that. Um, an anonymous attendee. I hope that answers, but the nominee, we're focused on them. I do share from an internal perspective. The reason we work directly with the nominators is the nominator generally knows this person in one way, shape, or form. We get amazing nominations. Unfortunately, 5 people get the award. So there are other folks where we will at the end of the cycle, we generally make sure our program team knows who the other nominators were in case it connects with the work they're doing. But just want you to understand there are lots of amazing awardees, and I wish if I won the lotto, I could give them all awards, right? But I think just to understand there's going to be a lot of wonderful nominees, look at the criteria, but also know that part of the reason we go to the nominators is we don't want people to experience this as a rejection if possible, because they are still celebrated, they are still acknowledged, and we learn a lot. Like we really read these very closely as the selection committee. So just want you all to understand that if your person is not chosen, it may not be because they're not the most awesome person in the world. It may just be that you're someone else fit the group. Um, could you provide more of a definition or examples for the fields of health and well-being? Absolutely. We actually have a tab on our website that goes through health and well-being. It typically, our names have evolved, but that would include things like health care. It could also include things like those who are doing healing through arts and nature, things that may overlap the youth success pillar. So it may be mental health for youth. But we have a full definition and we can pull that up for you. But I hope that answers your question. Novi, you spend even more time looking at definitions. Anything else you'd add there?
My Zoom is unstable. Can you hear me? I keep
Yes.
going in and out. Okay. Yes, health and well-being, just all encompassing around anything that has to do with the determinants of health, right? Like, so what contributes to the well-being of the community, right? It can be mental health, it can be physical health, it can be, you know, spiritual health, all the things.
Thank you. Jennifer asked, can a person be nominated this year if nominated last year? Yes, absolutely. And please do. If you're really seeing someone that you believe in, please update the nomination. But absolutely, you can nominate the same person. Melissa, I know we've talked about this a lot. Anything else you'd add there?
No, I mean, well, yes, I do have something to offer. The biggest one of the criteria is timing. And maybe the timing wasn't necessarily right last year if that's when they were nominated. So, continue to nominate, because if there's evidence that the timing might be right for this leader, then that might make them more competitive for the award in that particular year. So yeah, it's
Thank you.
only a few. Unfortunately, we only get to pick five, even though there are many, many other leaders that are doing amazing work each year.
Absolutely. Thank you. And then someone asked, is there a minimum age limit?
Do you want me to take that? Or
Yes, please. Sorry.
okay. I'm gonna put it back on your plate a little bit because I think from a work standpoint, there are I don't think there's necessarily an age limit. They just have to be advancing good work in San Diego and align with the criteria, though I think there might be some restrictions on the grant piece or the funding. So maybe maybe we can get back to folks on that question.
Yeah. I think if you have a question, please reach out. I think we have not seen anyone, to my knowledge, that that age has been a limiting factor. I think if you see them leading, we know leaders are of all ages and in all kinds of stages of their work. So please consider. Sorry, I just also saw in the chat, Marissa, you were asking about the criteria. The criteria that you listed were from the 26. So we evolve as we learn. So I just dropped in the chat, but please make sure you're looking at the 2027 criteria because we get feedback every year and we evolve to better speak to the types of leaders that we are looking to acknowledge and how to best understand that. Like, for example, we realized making scalability as a criteria didn't serve us as well as talking about impact and timing, right? Like we don't know what's going to scale, but there may be someone who has a great vision and courage and inspiration. So that would be the difference. So yes, please make sure everyone that you're looking at the 2027 criteria. I see in the chat, because I think most of the Q&A, oh, good, we got some more Q&A. There were some questions that came up on the theme of is it a waste of time to nominate multiple, is it a waste of time for multiple people to submit for one leader? Melissa, I'd welcome your thoughts on that.
Uh, I would say that we will pick the strongest nomination to advance to the selection committee. So the number of actual nominations submitted does not necessarily make them more competitive. It's just the strength of the particular nomination. So would recommend collaborate if you already know other people that are nominating, collaborating with them on one versus maybe submitting, 8 nominations for one person individually. So yeah, it's not necessarily a quote unquote waste of time necessarily, but we will only pick one that's going to advance to the selection committee.
Thank you. Let's see here. And then we have from Ron Donahoe, could you talk about the jobs/fields that arts and culture might include? Ron, I think the reason we go with arts and culture is because it is a large breadth with a lot of depth. So it could be any number of careers. I don't think we name it by career, but are you practicing art, supporting that ecosystem? Are you a cultural practitioner like the Macedonio from Iscali? Are you working with those tools to strengthen San Diego? So I think it's not limited by job. Is if there's a specific field or job that you have a question about, please feel free to reach out. But that is not the specific criteria as long as they speak to the pillar. Let's see here. Jennifer Bantle. Just thinking ahead, will these categories of winners ever evolve? Our county is losing a farm every 3 days over imports of flooding the market. I was hoping maybe this could help our farmers stay in business if possible. Jennifer, thank you for that insight. I think some parts of farming, don't hold me to it, because we have to see how nominees are framed. Sometimes that contributes to health and well-being. If you look at Diane Moss, who was nominated when we originally had this called Leaders in Belonging, she, with her Project New Village work, absolutely contributes to that. But there's also the grant side of things. As you may know, Prebis did emergency granting last year tied to food and the subsidies tied to that. So, I think depending on the framing, take a look and see if it aligns. If not, I imagine that there may be other grant opportunities that may better align. But thank you for flagging that concern. We absolutely believe that health and food is a part of health and well-being for the region. Marissa, thank you for the response. I don't see any other Q&A. For the rest of the team, is there any? Oh, actually, here's one. How much weight will be given to the local context of what nominees do versus the broader state national context. I understand that we are asked about how they advance good work in San Diego, so this may be a nuanced matter, but if you could please address it, that would be helpful. For example, the nominee addresses issues in San Diego that result from broader pressures at the state and national and even international levels. Melissa, I'm going to kick it to you first.
Sure. Yeah. The Provost Foundation's scope is largely focused on San Diego, so we are really looking at how that work might impact San Diego. So I would focus the nomination on even if it is a statewide or national work, and how that work is translating into improved well-being for San Diegans, and if there are plans to expand in San Diego or expand your work or that impact San Diegans, that would be helpful to understand as well. So I think it's not necessarily like if, one or the other, but how is your broader work impacting San Diego, or how is their work?
Thank you, Melissa. Let's see, we have from Catherine, can you speak briefly about workforce development within youth success? Is the priority population K through 12 or community college university students? Novi, I'm going to ask for your help on this since you sit
Yep.
directly on program team.
Yep. Catherine, yeah. So workforce development, just from the previous standpoint, is critical to youth success. And in terms of priority population, there's no priority population in regards to this award specifically. So it's about, again, about the nomination and how the nomination speaks to and uplifts the impact within this certain area. And how does that, support youth success or drive youth success in San Diego County. And so, yeah, there's no criteria on who it's being served in that way. So if either or, so I would say, just make it make sense in your nomination.
Thank you. And Molly, I saw your question in terms of if someone works on both sides of the border. Yes, whether it was Andy Carey or Dr. Paula Aristobal, we've had folks who work on both sides of the border. We seek what their impact is specific to San Diego County because that is what our funds allow us to support directly with finances. But if they're working and building relationships across the border, whether it's our south border north with the artist work, we do value those relationships across the border, but the funding stays in San Diego County.
I just to add on to that, Crystal, I responded to your question, Molly, in writing, but it would be helpful to understand the kind of full scope briefly. So let's say your this organization or this leader advanced a policy change. So they advocated in Sacramento, and that resulted in a policy change that ultimately impacted the whole state. You would want to kind of address that, right? At least briefly, and then talk about specifically how that work is impacting San Diegans. I think if you also are working, or if this person is also working in other counties, you can include that. It just shouldn't be necessarily like the focus of the nomination, if that makes sense.
Excellent. Thank you, Melissa. All right, with that, it looks like we are winding down. So again, we want to thank you all for your time. We will send this out later today, assuming the YouTube upload happens the way we hope. If not, it'll be out first thing tomorrow. Thank you for your time. Any other questions, please email us at communications with an S at the end at prebisfdn.org. Again, thank you for your time and please, we look forward to hearing who you nominate. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and we look forward to staying connected with you. Thank you, everyone.